there were preview things for the stuff that was revealed early. And, you know, I come out of there going, there's still a half dozen things that I didn't do that I could do, but the appetite at a Buff book is only so much. And for that week, it's okay. Like,
yeah,
get it in now. Get the good stuff in now.
I'm surprised Toyota announced their passenger drone yesterday and not last week. You know, maybe they felt it would take, you know, attention off the woven cities.
Yeah. What about that? We're a car company, so we're going to design a city that's hostile to cars.
Yeah, because you're looking at the next market, and the next market is going to be VTOL. They don't like drones. Don't tell them that they're making a drone. They get all bent out of shape.
I know.
But,
call them VTOLs, right?
Yeah.
I just wonder if we're all going to be walking around like this at some point, you know.
Well, actually, that's what they've tried that several times. I don't know who the magic man is for that, but I mean, at the end of the day, you could go like this if they had what they call swarming VTOLs. They come in really close and whatnot, and then they blow your head off. Yeah. But that's too close to...
I'm just worried about...
You're getting close to defense.
Yeah, defense.
Shut up.
Right,
Shut up.
Shut up. Okay, all right, good. Well, let's talk about VTOLs. But anyways, to me, after sitting at that little teeny tiny narrow thing, Ventura Highway, which is to me the absolute worst designed product ever people were forced to use, and then I think, oh, that could be 16 miles wide, and you'd have nobody bumping into anybody with VTOLs. I mean, it seems stupid to me that we don't have flying cars.
I just, you know, cars break down all of a sudden, you know, and they coast over to the right, you know, to their shoulder. One of these things breaks down, and look out, you know.
No, they become, no, they don't, that's not the way it works. First off, most of them are going to be electric.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to break down. Electric motors last for nearly forever.
Oh.
So that isn't going to happen. But even if they did stop, okay, you decouple and gyrocopter, and
I've never been persuaded by the auto rotation concept. I don't know.
Oh.
Hey, let's hold this. We can talk more about VTOLs after the show. Let's get the show going.
Why not?
Watch Autoline After Hours live at Autoline.tv every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific. You can subscribe to this podcast for free by searching for Autoline in iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion. Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world. And by DIA MTS, for advanced manufacturing machinery and lightweight components.
All right, everybody, welcome to Autoline After Hours. Gary, we got a good show today.
We do. So how you been?
I've been pretty good, actually. Yeah.
So we were at CES last week.
And I didn't get sick like it seems like everyone else did.
And if this were any other year, we'd be at downtown at NIAS right now. And,
yeah, Detroit Auto Show.
But
we got a free week.
We do.
And we also got to let everybody know Frank Markus from Motor Trend is on the set with us again.
Also not sick at CES. It's a miracle.
Right. Yeah. So you doing well?
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's turn to our special guest of the afternoon.
Woo, special.
Mr. Sandy Munro.
Oh, boy.
Sandy, great to have you back.
Thank you very much for having me back. I thought after the last show you wouldn't do it again, but here I am.
No.
By popular demand, Sandy. Come on.
Popular demand.
Yeah,
oh, yeah, my fans. Yes.
So let's lay the groundwork. We want to talk about deconstructing the tooling cost of the Tesla Cybertruck, because when that thing rolled out on stage, you know, my first reaction was, what the hell? And my second reaction was, ooh, wait a minute. That truck looks to me like it could be built with far, far lower tooling costs. You know, look to me like you don't need any stamping dies. You know, maybe just use a brake press. It's stainless steel, unpainted. Ooh, they saved a bunch of money there, maybe potentially. And I thought, we got to get Sandy on the show and talk about this. So what was your reaction when you saw the truck?
Love at first sight, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I like that truck a lot. And as an off-roader, I have a Rubicon, a Jeep Rubicon, and I do like hunting, and it has the magic. It's quiet. I can take it anywhere I want and sneak up on the deer so I don't have to, bundle all up and then troop out to blind and whatever. I can just drive and stop, and I won't disturb anything. No one hear me
Drive,
coming.
stop, and shoot.
Raise it up to blind level?
There's a lot of rules about that.
Oh,
I have thought about it, but no, I think they have rules about that. But at least driving up to the blind quietly and getting up, I make more noise walking than this thing would probably make, sneaking up, as it were. So I like the look.
Why do you like the look? I mean, it's very controversial.
Well, a long time ago, you actually came to Land Rover when we were working with them on the Mini and trying to change the Range Rover around so that it would be profitable and things wouldn't fall off. And when you were there, you saw how it was torn down and everything. It was a very exciting time. One of the things that you didn't see was that Range Rover was the frame for something called Judge Dredd. Do you remember that? And he had the Dreadmobile, and it was the only thing that would survive in the cities and stuff like that. I wanted to make those. I wanted to get rolling chassis, put on a boat, shipped to Detroit, and tricked out like that. And for two reasons. One, I would make one version as an armored car, basically, and the other one for the urban cowboy or whatever you want, somebody that really wanted to make a statement. I figured for sure we could make that happen. As long as I stayed below the levels, I mean, I could get around.
So you love the post-apocalyptic
I
look
do.
of the Cybertruck.
Right, and I also worked on the, what's the name of it, DD-50. I can't remember the name, but it's the new stealth ship, Zeg.
We don't want to talk about the defense industry. So.
Yeah, anyway, so it's got a very long, sharp, yeah. Oh, that's right. I'm not.
We're moving right along.
Okay,
So,
moving right along.
Frank, do you
But anyways,
remember
it's
that
got all
concept
those sharp,
that Ford
sharp
did
edges
that
and
looked like
whatnot that I
vault?
like.
Do you remember that? If anybody remembered, I thought it'd be.
Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Yeah.
But I mean, remember it was very, very vault-like. And
What's
you
this?
remember the Ford concept that they had at Detroit maybe 10, 15 years ago?
That sort of
That was-
industrial design
it-
vehicle.
Yeah, and it almost looked like it had gun ports, I mean, that sort of thing. Very, very
Wow. When was this?
10, 15 years ago.
I can't remember for breakfast, so.
But anyway, let's go back to the Cybertruck. Do you accept the premise that this thing was designed to drastically reduce tooling costs?
It did drastically reduce tooling cost. And actually, let me bring up my cheat sheets. We went and looked at this, and I had 3 or 4 of my guys that, I wanted to make sure that we were all in kind of an accord, because some people are going to say, oh, that's entirely wrong. But it's probably not going to be wrong. Where the heck is it? Did I fail to put it in here, which would be something I'd normally do? Maybe I did. It doesn't matter. I got the other cheat sheet. Okay. So let's look at this. This is kind of what we came up with. Now, so we all, are in accord here. Anyone who has any problems with the numbers I'm about to say, please go to John McElroy's site and tell him about it. Don't come and see me. So here's the thing. We were looking at the Tesla, and we think that the blanks are going to come in 2 size. Why not?
You're talking about the steel blanks that would then be
Yeah.
formed to make body
Later on.
panels.
Yeah, because you could water jet it, or you could laser cut it, or whatever. Water jet is what I picked because to me it goes faster and it works well, and it's 3mm stainless. It would work just fine, and I don't want to take a heat treat away. I don't know what that stainless steel is. They just call it 300X, but I know that it's a stainless steel that they're using on the Falcon and
Starship.
and SpaceX. So I know that.
So they're using SpaceX technology in the
It is.
Cybertruck.
No question about it. The steel, or the steel is definitely that. I think that we're going to be looking at press brakes and simple stamping. I don't think they're going to need, I don't see a reason for a paint shop. And where painted parts are needed, I think what they're going to do is they're going to come in painted by the supplier. I think the body shop will be manual, and this is based on $50,000 a year. I don't know what their real target is, but I'm looking at $50,000 a year because I don't know enough about their marketing strategy. I don't think they'll have a paint shop. It's going to come in painted. The body shop will be manual load auto clamp. We'll have manual tack and then robotic TIG welding because it's just simple that way. I think the CapEx for $50,000 would be about $30 million.
Which is nothing.
Well, I've got the other stuff too. So let's look at an F-150 type truck, and we're going to use everything like an F-150, but we're looking at $50,000 a year. So if we look at it, we've got coil stock will come in and it'll go into blank dies and whatnot. That's about $25 million. The body shop with partial automation and multi-spot welders, about another $35 million. A paint shop, $150 million. That means the CapEx total for that is $210 million. So you're looking at a difference between
$210 million for an F-150 built at a $50,000 a year volume.
Right,
is what
yeah,
you're saying.
Right. And I need $210 million, whereas with the truck we just looked at, it's like $30 million. So then we look down here and we say, okay, well, what happens if we look at $600 million a year?
600,000.
Or 600,000 a million, 600,000 a year. Okay, things have to be a little different. So I'm going to try and figure out how to use dies to get the job done. That's going to be $30 million for sure. The body shop is going to be about another $35 million. I am going to need a paint shop. And they're a vertically integrated kind of group, so that's going to be another $60 million, but that only gets me up to $125 million.
And that's to paint what goes underneath the stainless steel. Because you're not getting them brought in. Is that what you're talking about there? Yeah.
We'll be doing our own.
Because you're still not painting the outside in this
No,
scenario.
no.
Right.
This is just for things that have to be painted.
Yep, underneath.
But aren't stainless steel. So at an F-150, this one here is conservative and on the light side. Dies $50 million, body shop $65 million, paint shop, if it's new, just like new for new, $500 million. Paint shops are expensive. So that gives us a total CapEx of $615 million versus $125. That's a big, huge difference.
Is this all predicated on the body panel design?
Yes. On the design.
And
Actually,
you picture these being blanked and not hemmed at all, so it's just what you see is what there is, right?
well, actually, I have a picture. Can we bring up number 8, please? And this is something, maybe
go.
you've seen this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we looked at that and said, okay, that's the body in white. Looks like the pillars are nice and simple. Geometry is 2, flat floor, can't see seat cross members. This might be a simplified or photoshopped image. Not sure why they would have a sharp angle at the port cover for the electrical charging.
So that's the little door right behind the rear wheel well there.
Right. So looking at that, I didn't bring them with me, but I made a bunch of sketches on how I would create that if I was going to design that body. And quite frankly, because it's all stainless steel and because I was a tool maker at one time, I'm thinking that flanges and stuff like that I'd have, like a weld flange for spot welding, is not going to be like this. I'm going to be bending this around, and I'm going to be either using a lap joint or I'm going to make a butt joint to bring these things together, and it's going to have a lot of
TIG welding?
welding.
So you don't think this is like bonded onto an endoskeleton or something? Those panels are going to have edges or
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me do something else too, because one of the things that people kind of get confused on sometimes is what's the difference between all these different ways of different ways of making a car. So what you're looking at there is an exoskeleton. Okay, so can you bring up number 11? So let's look at where the term exoskeleton comes from. This is on the left-hand side there. That's a CB. It was designed in 1946, and and it's stamped, and it doesn't have a lot of ribs and longerons and things like that. It's basically an outside skin, and guess what? It's about 3 millimeters thick. Is that skin? And it was classified as a dud because, oh God, who's going to do that? Then they brought them out and people bought them like crazy. It's no general aviation plane has ever sold as many as that in a year, ever. If you look to the right, and you can see all of those little teeny tiny pieces that are all welded together, that's the Eclipse. Now, if there's old auto guys that invested in Eclipse and they start having a stroke or something, I can't be responsible, because a lot of auto guys sunk a tremendous amount of money into that, and they liked the way it looked because it kind of looked like a car and it went fast, and unfortunately it failed. And it failed because the piece cost was too high, the CapEx was out of this world, and the labor costs were killers. That thing on the other side, the CB, is 95% cheaper to build, and you could fly more people in it than the Eclipse. Now, there's another reason too. The Eclipse was a jet, and the CB was not. But I took the engines out. Okay, what I'm giving you here is that's without engines. And that's kind of like the difference that you can get when you start looking at an exoskeleton versus, let's see.
Would you say that the old Pontiac Fiero was what you're talking about here with an exoskeleton with bolted-on body panels?
No,
that was an endoskeleton.
It was
No structure on the outside.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's
the-
a skeleton.
Because this is structure on the outside.
So the Cybertruck, all those panels we're looking at are providing the strength to the vehicle.
That's exactly correct.
And are we going to be looking at welds that have to be then brushed afterwards? I mean, will there be things?
Depends. If it was up to me, no, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I'd weld it because I can get a great weld from automatic welding. You know, I can get a great weld out of that. Why would I want to turn it into something where I'd have to go back and dress it up?
Grind it.
And grind it. I mean.
But I mean, are you talking about an edge welding, or where are the edges?
I'm going to bend it in so I don't have, you know, a big. I don't want a puddle weld sitting, you know, exposed. I'm going to turn it around inside. So, but when you open the door, like you'll see, you know, Dum Dum or Pumpable or whatever, you know. Well, instead of that, you'll see the weld. And
But can
all
you
we do
still
is
make
Scotch write it.
those hems, those flanges on a press brake with 3 mil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in that kind of a business, and we were using 3/4 plate to do kind of like what they're doing with 3 millimeters. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Now, when we move into higher volumes, okay, I'm going to probably take a different tack, but at 50,000, I'll stand behind those numbers all day long.
So what do you think the reasonable capacity would be to utilize the equipment that you described for the 50,000 scenario? I
To
mean,
use on a 60,000?
well, I mean, could you scale that without having to go to automation?
No. No. I would say that if I tooled up for 50,000 and I saw that the demand was needed for something bigger, then I would definitely retool, and I'd probably change the design of the product slightly, because I would want at 600,000 I got to
No,
clip
but I
right
mean,
along.
but 600,000 Cybertrucks is, I mean, that's an extreme number.
How many F-150s were sold last
About
year?
Well, but I mean-
740,000.
Yeah, and how many did Ram throw out?
Ram was in the 640 range, something like that.
So
Number two?
600,000 is not, number 2.
No, but I think what Gary is
for
saying.
pickup trucks, yes, I understand that, but for electric vehicles.
Well, at the end of the day, what I did was I tried to draw a comparison between Tesla trying to crank something out and an F-150. that nobody would build a pickup truck at 50,000. I mean, it wouldn't be practical. And then I tried to put something down that would allow us to have a look at, well, what happened if I did the reverse? And I want the Tesla vehicle, and I want it at 600,000. I don't think it's a 600,000 unit a year kind of vehicle, but you know what? Things have surprised. When the general public gets a hold of this thing, things happen. By the way, can we just show that there's two other types of product. One's called a unibody, and I brought a picture. It's on number 12, so that people can. Not everybody, I found out recently, not everyone is a car aficionado. A lot of people don't know what these terms mean. So that's what a unibody looks like.
And so explain unibody. I mean, it's the structure of the vehicle, and then you just hang panels on it.
Exactly. That's good, fast, and quick. And that unibody kind of construction, or in Europe they call it monocoque, which is a French word that just means you hang panels on it. But at the end of the day, that type of a vehicle is one type that everybody uses, and then there's another one, and it's on page 13, and that would be called body on frame. And the body on frame is basically what happens. You get a body, and you have a rolling chassis that goes down an assembly line. And in this case, it's the BMW i3, and it comes to a station, and they go. That's technical term.
Yeah.
And then they squirt a bunch of adhesive, and then you take the body, and it drops onto 2 pins, and push it down, and done. That's it. So that kind of construction, also at 50,000 makes a lot of 50,000 or less. Body on frame is a good idea.
Well, all these electric trucks we're talking about are skateboard chassis and body kind of deals, right?
Right, yeah. So with an exoskeleton, I get all the advantages that I would have with a body on frame. I get all that basically for free, and because you saw the picture there, that floor pan it looks dead flat to me. I think that. I don't see how it could get much simpler. I mean, but normally that would never pass muster with the designers. No car designer would go for the way that thing looks. And quite frankly, like without those crossbeams, I haven't seen the real truck, so without having the crossbeams for the seats and whatnot, I don't know how they put that together. I don't know how the battery fits in. I can only live with what information I've got. But I will tell you that that there is a competitor for this vehicle, and I've saved that as a little juicy thing. Can we have number 10, please? So, some people have looked at what's going on here, and those dirty Russians have done it again. This this is made out of what looks like 3mm plate, and they burned it out and welded it together themselves in Russia. So I gave you the what do you call it, the link that you can go to have a look. But it's amazing.
It's a copy of the Tesla Cybertruck.
Although it looks like you'd be impaled on the roof. You notice that?
Yeah.
Comes
Well,
to a
that's
point.
that. I think that's the building in back of it, but it wouldn't put me. It wouldn't put him past it for throwing a little something extra in there for the peasants that don't do what they're told.
And they probably threw this body on top of a pickup truck frame.
And flat panels are easier to DIY than anything with compound curves. Let's face
exactly
it.
Right. I mean, this is like when I was a kid, when I was learning to be, getting into the trade and whatnot. You have to make your mother a little pan to cook cake in. I mean, it's a cake pan design. Everything is bend, fold, and roll.
Yeah.
In fact, you don't even have to weld on for that little cake pan thing.
Hey, another thing, it's not only the body panels that are flat, all the glass is completely flat.
Yeah, and believe me, that makes engineers happy, especially manufacturing engineers.
So we're talking about the Cybertruck now, not the Russian truck.
Well, the Russian truck, we could probably talk some more about that, but we're not gonna. Yeah, I want to see the guy that comes in first, not the one that's coming in last.
So flat plate glass, a lot easier to make, cheaper to make?
Yes, it is. And the kind of glass that they have, the Cermat, I think it's Cermat. Nobody's told me yet, but...
What's Cermat?
Well, actually, could we have number 5? Because I can't get I mean, I have a piece of this stuff, but it just looks like a hockey puck. So they threw... Oh, wait a minute. Oh,
You got another
I have something
show
in
and
my
tell
pocket.
object.
Oh, it's O'Brien's. So I get a free dinner there. Anyways, this is about the same size as the thing that they threw at the window, right? And
Looks like the ball hitch for a towing length.
actually, it used to be a very expensive ball out of a ball bearing race for one of those kind of things we can't talk about because
Defense
everybody will yell,
stuff.
"Oh!" Anyway, so if I took this and threw it at
Any car window. Yeah.
it'd go right through it.
Right.
I mean, like zippity-doo-dah fast. And yet, if you look at this thing, all it got was a couple of crease marks and a couple of little grains fell through.
You're saying,
on
you know,
passengers.
when they threw it at the windows on the Cybertruck,
Yeah.
it cracked the window, but it didn't go through.
Right. But the big thing is that, and there's more information if you flip to page 6, then you can see there's a little description there, basically telling you a little bit more about how this thing is. A lot of people call this, transparent aluminum and stuff like that, but it's basically aluminum, and if you can pronounce that, I can't, oxynitride. But in essence, it's a big, long process, and in actuality, you blend this stuff together, you create something that looks like a house brick, then it goes through a bunch of heat treat, then it goes to another process where they flatten it out, basically. Then they have to heat treat it again, and then they polish it, and voila, you've got something that looks transparent, beautifully transparent. But again, we use that for tanks.
Is it
Tanks for the memories.
in the Cybertruck the same thickness as typical window glass would be, do you imagine?
I haven't seen it, but I'm guessing that, I'm guessing that it would be the same as what I would normally see, about 1/4 of an inch thick. Yeah.
Heavily laminated, though, obviously.
I'm not actually 100% sure because, okay, so we had that little demonstrator. Okay, so in my other pocket,
It's like Felix the
they
cat.
say that it's bulletproof, right? So let me see if I can get this out of my pocket. So I think that they're talking about that kind of.
9mm was the bodywork. I don't think the glass was necessarily described as bulletproof.
That stuff, if it's the same thickness as I'd put into a tank or some armored vehicle, it'll bounce these off.
So what is that?
caliber is that bullet?
That's a 303. Okay,
So
but
for those listening, Sandy's pulling weapons out of his pocket.
Well, ammunition.
ammunition, not weapons.
You could
I didn't bring
throw it.
any weapons here. But this one here is a little bit tougher to stop than this one. We notice this is in the olden days. This would be standard munition for World War carbine, a World War II kind of a product. But this is also a World War II. This is a 50 cal, and this is what I don't think it will stop. I think this will go through it like peanut butter.
9mm.
9mm.
9mm is what they were saying.
9mm is a little bit smaller.
9mm handgun is what the 3mm
Yeah.
stainless was supposed to repel.
Okay, hold it. We've got to throw to our commercial break right now because we got to pay some bills here. So we're going to give a shout out to our friends at Borg Warner. We'll be right back talking more about the Cybertruck.
The world is changing at an ever-increasing pace. No matter what the mode of transportation, there is always the need for an efficient propulsion system. And that's exactly what Borg Warner has been doing since the earliest days of the automotive industry. We create innovative mobility technologies that reduce energy consumption and emissions while improving performance. Our proven track record has made us an industry leader in forward-looking propulsion solutions for combustion, hybrid, and electric vehicles.
All right, we're back talking all about the Tesla Cybertruck with Sandy Munro. I got another question about the flat plane glass. I was told by an engineer that if you wanted to put a HUD, a head-up display, way easier to do with flat glass. You don't need all these fancy optics,
And
so you can put it in dirt cheap.
Absolutely, and it looks clear as well. So you can again, back to the nasty D word, but the flat plane is what you want to see inside of a fighter jet, because you don't want any distortion. So yes, that is 100% true.
Sandy, the stainless steel, when Elon decided to change the SpaceX vehicle from carbon fiber, which was the original plan that he was going to use, and then they began to look at stainless steel, then he came out and he famously said, honestly, I'm in love with steel.
That's not what he told me. He said he's hated steel.
Well, he had, but
Trying
then
to
he
weld
had
the
a
body together for the three, yeah, but
and then he had this revelation that this would be a better material for them to make spacecraft out of, and as a result of that, that has then led to this 301 that's being used. 301 stainless apparently is what they're using for the spacecraft.
it's 30X, and
Well-
I doubt very much if it's 301, because it wouldn't have the right characteristics.
Okay, but let's
He's
say
got something funny going on in it.
so. Why is he using stainless steel rather than a more common steel that is used in automotive manufacturing?
I have to paint common steel. If I was looking to get rid of things that are bad for the ecology or whatever, probably paint would be number one on my hit list. Well, actually, it would be number two. I'm not really fussy on a lot of the plating things that you have to eat. I mean, you're using things like that pink ooze that's coming out
on the freeway.
696. Yeah, that stuff is nasty, and it always winds up going into the hands of the low bidder, right? And he probably has no morals whatsoever. So everybody says, "Well, I got rid of it. I gave it to this guy, and now my hands are clean." But they're not really. You get the pink ooze. So that would be number one on my hit parade. Get rid of that. But after that, I'd like to try and see what we could do about getting rid of painting. And painting costs a lot of money. It's expensive to make it work. It's hard to make it work. It's not everybody that can paint a car properly at the kind of rates that we're looking at. So,
And like you said,
stainless steel
paint
to me
shops, horrifically expensive.
yes, they are half a billion bucks for a good paint shop. You can go over that with depending on what kind of features and functions you want inside. But
So here's another question. We know that the factory in Fremont, California is jam-packed, bursting at the gills. They had to build the so-called tent off the back. So maybe not put it in there, and you don't want to build it in the China plant because you want to ship those things back to the U.S., which is the #1 pickup market.
Right.
It's going to get hit with a 25% import tariff. Same with the German plant. Could they put it in the Gigafactory in Nevada?
okay, so first off, I was in that plant prior to it going to Tesla, and I was also
mean the NUMMI plant?
The NUMMI plant, and it was gigantor, and I don't understand why they can't make things work in there. They must have put in like extra stuff, because really and truly that's a very big plant, and I know that
It was
they've
two
had-
assembly halls.
It was, and at the end of the day, I know that they had to go to the tents and whatnot because they just had problems with some of the assembly line equipment and whatnot, and so they kind of bypassed it. Well, it would seem to me that if they wanted to, those bypassed pieces of equipment could be, changed around during a changeover period, maybe at Christmas or something like that. Pull the old junk out, put the new stuff in. I mean, we've done that forever. That's one of the things that Munro and Associates does. And making that quick change to get rid of the tents and maybe streamline it or bring it to where it should be as far as manufacturability, I think you're going to find plenty of little corners that you could crank this thing out.
Yeah, because it wasn't NUMMI like 2 million square
Yeah, it's
feet?
very big.
it
on the
was
Trinity
huge
Circuit
plant.
It was a huge plant.
But my
nobody's
understanding,
got a
because
2 million.
I've never been out there, I was at NUMMI, but not since Tesla's been in, obviously. Very vertically integrated company. I got to imagine they filled up the floor space with stuff they're building in-house.
Well, to me, I would rather build stuff that they're building in-house, out-house, and I would rather have all of the car facilities there, because sometimes building things in-house means you're making dirt. And so, okay, the stainless steel doesn't care about it, but anything that's going to get painted doesn't like dirt. You don't want to have dirt inside your factories. So for me, I would probably push that into a gigafactory or something like that.
Put the Cybertruck in the Gigafactory.
No, I would take
the
subassembly stuff and put that in, because I mean it's easy to ship little things. It's tougher to big, and the more air you're shipping, the worse the cost is. So
5.3 million square feet of manufacturing and office space.
5.3.
oh my God, you got to be.
And this is the official Tesla number. So this isn't somebody. Yeah.
They must have built. There must be something else going on there. I don't remember. I remember it was huge. I mean,
I was there when it was the Model S, and it was, you know,
million.
acres and acres of empty space.
Right.
Even with all the subassembly, you know, because he bought all that stuff on the cheap
Yeah, I know.
in the downturn. So he got all that, you know,
thought Toyota-
blow molding equipment and so forth.
Toyota basically said.
Toyota essentially gifted
Yeah.
the factory to him.
Oh, true, and then but a lot of that equipment he got from suppliers that were going under too, for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah,
so.
but they had 2 separate assembly halls and a contiguous stamping, and I think Toyota even put in molding there too.
Probably, yeah. So Sandy, not all that long ago, we had a Bollinger B1 or B2, I forget which.
Truck
but
is 2.
in the studio, and flat surfaces. It just looked like it was designed with a T-square. How does that compare to the Cybertruck, do you think?
Well, okay, so let's talk about one thing, and that's money. To me, I don't understand something. I don't understand why it is the Bollinger costs so much, and yet the Cybertruck can cost so little, or sell for so little.
Well, I think, number one, if Bollinger sells 5,000 a year, that's going to be a big number. What do you think they'd sell for?
Oh, no more than that. He wants to recover all of his upfront costs, which I think he's kind of self-funded through the prototype stage, and now he's monetizing to go forward with production. But that $125,000, I think he's trying to probably get some of that back, because there's all kinds of great ideas for reducing the cost of that truck.
Yeah, but I think the Bollinger is extremely low volume for gentlemen ranchers.
Right.
And Tesla wants to do at least 50,000 of these trucks. So it's, 10 times the volume.
So I didn't look at that in too much detail. I saw it, and boutique kind of vehicles really don't do it for me unless they instantly grab my attention. This thing grabbed my attention.
But I mean, from the standpoint of producing the thing, I mean, it just seems to me, I mean, hell, you wouldn't even need press brakes almost.
And,
I mean, it's just
the same-
some blanking dies.
Snips and rivet guns.
Yeah.
One of the curious cost savings that Bollinger went for, which seems within reach of Tesla, and they're not going for it, is Class 3, which gets you out of airbags and a bunch of crash testing
Fuel
and so
economy
on.
and-
Yeah, Bollinger does that. Of course, you end up with like a 5,000-pound payload, which on the SUV, you'd have to carry depleted uranium, in every cubic inch of the thing, I think, to get up to that. But they've got to be 5,800 pounds with a 200 kilowatt-hour battery in there, so it's not that hard to get to 10,000, but they don't appear to be doing that. What's your take on that?
That's a strategy that I'm sure Elon Musk has decided to look at and dismiss. I don't know. A lot of things that have to do with what I would call emotional kind of decisions, I don't try and predict. I really have no clue.
I think he's saying
But
3,500 pounds or 3,350 or something like that as the. So if you're already at 6, you're within,
Within spitting.
a linebacker of getting there,
Yeah. But to me, I don't quite understand a lot of things that go on at Tesla. But I do know one thing. Elon Musk is nobody's fool. He must have something in his hip pocket. I'm sure that he's a chess player, not a checker player. So my guess is that there'll be another surprise. I don't know what it'll be, but he'll have another. Maybe when he throws the third motor in, then then the linebacker thing you were just talking about. Then maybe he'll have a reason for.
But if you've already tooled for an airbag, they saved all the cost of making, getting all that engineered.
Yeah.
If they're not all Class 3, you got to engineer it in. There's not much
So
savings
let me
there.
ask you a
But
question. Okay, so go home to your wife and say, honey, can I buy a car with no airbags in it? What do you think, eh? Can we do it, honey? Huh? And I don't think she's going to be happy about it. Even if somebody else is saving money, I don't think she want to sit in a seat that doesn't have an airbag.
All you got to do is say, take a look at that thing. The best offense, defense is a good offense. And this is the most offensive truck
Most
out there.
offensive?
You're
Oh, my God.
You're gonna crash into anything. They're gonna die. You're gonna be fine.
Well,
Hey, there was something you were mentioning before the show that we didn't want to get into, but I want to get into now. You said there's some sort of paper, something on the instrument panel.
yeah, the instrument panel has a paper thin screen, and I think when I saw that, because I only saw that either last night or early this morning, and I instantly thought of the guy in Bloomfield Hills that came up with this stuff, and it was paper. It was paper. It looked like paper to me, and he
this
came
is
and
the
showed it to
backbone
us.
to the instrument panel.
No, this is the screen.
Oh,
It's the screen. What you're looking at is a chunk of paper that magically can make a screen out of. And the guy tried to peddle it. We tried to get it into the customers we had at the time. Nobody would go for it because nobody understood how the technology worked.
so is this the screen like the big iPad that you have in the, so instead of having Gorilla Glass and all that
Right.
stuff, it's paper?
Right. It might have glass in front of it, but it's according to what I've been told, it's paper. That's
So again, a lot
charged.
lighter and probably a
Are you
lot
kidding?
cheaper.
Well,
This is
I don't know
electronic
about-
paper.
I mean, does
Yeah,
it
it
look
is.
like a Kindle screen?
No, it looks like a chunk of paper. The guy brought it in and he said, "Here, look at this."
But
And he clicked and he turned it on, and I'm looking at a computer screen. And I'm going, "How does this work? How does this work?" He said, "Well, I'm not telling you that, but do you think you could get me an interview with somebody?" "Oh yeah, I think so." And then I was wrong. So again, when emotion takes over for numbers, I'm not good. I can't.
But you're saying Tesla in the Cybertruck is using this paper screen?
That's what I've been
What was
told.
this company?
Huh?
What was this company with the paper screen?
Actually, I can't remember, but it sounds like paper screen. I'll tell you what, though, I've got it on my computer. It's one of the things that we use when we're talking to people about technologies that could, be ground shaking or groundbreaking, I should say. So I'll try and check it out. But there's one thing we missed. We have to tell the people about one thing. Can we have number 7, please? There you go.
Yeah. I thought I read this morning that he sold out.
So we have
he'll
to describe it.
make
Some
more.
people are listening on podcast only. So it's a T-shirt that you can buy, and it's got like the
Cracked window.
the cracked windows of the Cybertruck from Tesla when they threw the ball at the glass, and that graphic is on the T-shirt.
And it's an
Yeah.
official Tesla product, too.
And it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Well-
tried to buy me one to wear on the show, but they couldn't get it fast enough.
They're $45.
Hey,
Holy
you-
moly!
You think I would spare the horses? Come on.
Well, remember the Boring Company ball caps that he made? And
How much were they?
I don't recall.
Hey, listen, Ferrari is like a third of their revenue is merch, I think, or something like that. So he's trying to get in on that action.
So, Sandy, let me ask you.
It's the same thing with Mini.
Wait.
We made more money on Mini than...
Save the thought, Gary, save the thought, because we have to take another commercial break right now and give a shout out to our good friends at Bridgestone and DIA MTS.
Whether they're electric, autonomous, or connected, tomorrow's cars must be developed quickly with the highest precision, and they have to be lightweight. DIA MTS can provide what you need, from advanced manufacturing machinery to lightweight components. Learn more at our website at www.d-iamts.com or visit our showroom right next to Metro Airport in Detroit.
I'd rather be the big frog.
All right, we're back. So, Gary,
All right, so Sandy,
Okay, what?
the Cybertruck, what does this do in terms of Model S, Model X, Model 3, Model Y? Do you see a rethinking of the way these vehicles are designed and built, or do you think
I
that?
think you got a different car buyer, completely different buyer. I think that this truck is going to appeal to a totally different person that would buy an S. An S, a lot of people who buy S's, they want to go fast. This doesn't. They want to be recognized as having arrived. This will tell you you've arrived all right, but maybe people would be afraid of it. I think that there's a model. I think there's going to be a market for the for this thing, for the 3, the S, and the Y that's coming up.
But
I really think they'll be fine.
But what I mean is that, okay, if the Cybertruck has a tremendous amount of attention paid to it from the point of view of simplifying the manufacturing process, are lessons going to be taken from it and then moved over to these other vehicles?
Well, I hope, I sincerely hope that the China vehicle, the Model 3 China vehicle, they've learned from those lessons. And I hope that sooner or later they'll reverse engineer the existing Model 3 that's made in the States, if they haven't already.
So the Model 3 in China is different than the Model 3
I think so. I think it will be, yeah.
But Gary, back when the Model S came out, and it was so, groundbreaking in so many ways, but not designed, we kind of, put it to Franz von Holzhausen and said, why does it look like a car? Why isn't this as crazy? And he said, we have got to establish ourselves for a generation and then look out.
Yeah.
Cybertruckers, look out.
this
Yeah.
is-
This
You
is
think this is the
Tesla
beginning?
second generation.
Yeah.
And they may not all be stealth fighter or angular, but I'll bet you when they redo any of these other cars, they're not going to be as necessarily as
Traditional.
normal
Conventional.
looking. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's absolutely correct. But I don't think that every car is going to be angular, and I don't think they're all going to, because they'll miss out on so much of the market. A lot of people, a lot of women buy these things, and although I know a lot of women that would love to have the Cybertruck, I know more of them that would say, I just like to have a car. I want to go to. They don't need that look. But the lessons learned on what they get with stainless steel and exoskeleton design, yeah, I think I never could understand why we didn't try and make an exoskeleton design car. When I was at Ford, I made a suggestion and was told to shut up and sit down.
Well,
And,
I mean, how much more does this thing weigh with that 3 mil thick stainless exoskeleton than if you just made this the way everyone else makes, a unibody truck?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I can't tell you this because I don't know. But I can tell you is that when we did we designed an airplane called the Paradigm. And when we did that, we used an exoskeleton design. And when we got done, we were lighter than a Cirrus, which was a direct competitor, and lighter than the Piper that was similar sized, lighter than both of them. And the Cessna, because we did 3 of them. We were lighter than all 3 of them by using exoskeleton.
And what was that exoskeleton made out of?
Aluminum. So we developed a special process for, and it was stamped, which nobody said you could do, but we checked it out. And
How thick?
3 millimeters.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, a little less than 3 millimeters.
Less than, so quite a bit less structure than this.
No, the structure is kind of the same. I don't have to pass crashworthiness with a small plane, but at the end of the day, I still have to. I have to survive, and we just copied the CB, and the CB was 3 millimeters. That's why I showed it to you, because there's a direct comparison between the thickness in aluminum and the thickness in the stainless steel. That one, the CB doesn't have to pass a crash test, although it did crash twice, and there was no appreciable damage. It's the same. It's kind of like this.
I was just thinking that on a small car, electric, where weight is the enemy of range and whatever, 3 mil thick exoskeleton might not be the play that makes as much sense as it does on a pickup truck, where you necessarily have a large carrying capacity and so on.
Okay, so I have, like I said, I have a Jeep. So when I go out into the bush with that, and I do, or I go off-roading and whatnot, I'm going to hit trees. I'm going to hit a rock or something, right? And I'm going to pop some paint or something like that, or get a scratch. What's going to happen to that thing? What's going to happen to this stainless steel thing? Nothing. Zero. If anything does happen, I get out my Scotch-Brite and it's gone. I think there's a lot of advantage if you're the kind of buyer that, that's going to want this. And quite frankly, I will tell you a little bit about what I know about people who buy a Jeep Wrangler. What do you think their second car is?
What?
Take a guess.
An F-150.
Nope. Mustang. Either a Mustang or a motorcycle. They aren't a truck buyer. They're a buyer of something that's going to take them for adventure. This thing here is an adventure vehicle, and a normal pickup truck driver. Let me rephrase that. The guys who buy pickup trucks because they want to do something with them are not the same kind of guy that's going to buy that.
A couple feature things. What do you guys make of that tailgate that has a ramp that somehow comes out that looks pretty thin in the pictures and that you can drive, quad runners up on? What is that made out of?
I broke both my wrists trying to get a quad onto a pickup truck with those stupid little hangers that you put onto the tailgate. Both wrists. You know what? It really hurts. It still hurts. It still hurts. I can't begin to tell you how unhappy I was because of one thing saying. I looked at that and I went, I sent an email message to two guys, the Flynn brothers, the two guys that I know, and they probably already got theirs. I mean,
what,
pay anything.
What do you think that's made? Because I think it's like two panels that come out. And what would you make those out of that would be strong enough to drive something up?
Stainless steel is wicked strong.
Okay.
It's a lot stronger than pretty much any. That's why you're making SpaceX out of it. That stuff's strong, and it doesn't rust, and it's easy to clean with a hose, and you're done. It's good stuff.
I thought that was one of the most clever design features of the Cybertruck.
If they can make it happen. I just looked at it and went,
Well, it does happen. They drove. I've seen a couple of videos where they just drove a quad inside, and you know what? Like I said, I have, they're not as old as I am, but I've got a lot of friends that have quads, and they would take one look at that, boom, or a bike. I mean, riding a bike or motorcycle up into a truck, that's no.
It's dangerous.
But you know what? I never got my wrist broken trying to drive a bike into a truck, but I'm telling you what, with that thing wide like that, so I can put my little dirt bike over here, and then I can drive the next one up. I don't have to trying to figure out where to put the little ramp to make it happen. No, I think it's a great idea.
Now, another one. What do you think about that roll top tunnel thing that, gets dirt and whatever, and then it goes way down into a little thing in here, and that looks like a...
You know what? We use that on airplanes like all over the place. Those type of it's called a timbre door.
Yeah.
Those type of timbre doors. You remember a million years ago, and you'd see these old westerns and whatnot, and the guy go, and he'd open up his desk. That's a timbre door.
Sure.
Those things are still around.
Yeah, but they're not outside. I'm tell you, it's dirty, and now it goes down in that thing, and you never can clean in there.
C-17s has got them, and they go into lots of dirty areas. I'm telling you, I looked at that, and we talked to Ford, we talked to Chrysler, we talked to General Motors, we've talked to, and even basically like military trucks. We've tried to get people to just to take a look at it. I don't know, and they said the same thing, it's dirty and whatnot. But I said, no, look, and we showed them another example on an airplane where it's being used. Wow.
Outside on the airplane somewhere.
Outside, yeah.
Okay.
All right, Sandy. So time before last year on the show, you basically said that Tesla was world-beating when it came to electronics, but when it came to the I believe you called it dinosaur stuff.
Dinosaur technologies. I
That-
mean,
that-
stamping and whatever.
Yeah, yeah. That they were, and you showed us parts, and why would they make something that looks like this? Look at the, I mean, on and on. So, have they redeemed themselves with the
this?
Cybertruck?
Oh yeah, the Cybertruck is. I mean, I I don't know what it looks like from an electronic standpoint, but if the truck or if the electronics are as good as or better than what I've seen in the Tesla 3, and all I'm gonna do is I'll be drooling all over this thing. I mean, I went into I didn't even want to tear one of these damn things apart. I didn't want to get involved with Tesla. We had a 3 come in. I looked around and we opened up the seats, took the things out and said, oh, this is crap. Closed it back up and told the customer, we don't want your $1.2 million, because that's what it costs about for them. We don't want your $1.2 million to tear this thing, cost it, and reverse engineer it and then give you a new design. We don't want it because there's no market here. We'd be stealing from you. Thank you. Get it out of here. And then Model X showed up. And a guy brought it in and said, can you reverse engineer it? Yeah, we can, but why? I mean, why would you want to do this? He paid us anyway. So, okay, we did. I mean, we warn you if you're doing something stupid, but hey, if you really want to do it, we'll help you out. That's our motto. And so we went in and we looked at it and we had tons of redesign ideas and whatnot, but there was no way I would touch that vehicle. Then we got and then Audi says, oh yeah, buy a Model 3 and then we'll have you tear it down. Okay, fine, because I wanted Audi to be a customer. And we ordered this damn thing and it didn't come because they had so many quality problems and whatnot. It shows up late. And finally get it in, and Audi says, oh, never mind. We have shipped one from California in our private plane. No, thanks. You can have the Tesla now. Thank you. Bye. Boom. That's kind of like the way it worked. And now what do? I got this Tesla. Nobody cares. So that's why we did the first. That's what we did the first report. And man, when we saw the outside, I mean, he's got videos on it.
It wasn't very good.
No, it was terrible.
But that's not where the story was.
No, the story
was under
below
the
the
skin.
skin.
Right. So
Never judge a car by the.
So now
Body and
with
weight.
the Cybertruck,
Now with the Cybertruck, you know what? You take a look at that flat floor and all these other things that they've done. The fact that it's an exoskeleton, I've been trying to talk people into that for a million years, or at least as long as I've been on the planet, and can't get anywhere. And he's come and done it. Timbre doors. You don't like them because you're worried. And
I just was, curious.
Oh, it's all right. Hey, and you know what? They may take your Tesla badge away.
Hey.
So you think for $50,000 a year, $32 million would pay for all the tooling on the car. Yeah. So I'm guessing, what do you have to amortize? Probably less than $200 a truck if they build it for 5 years? Is that right?
That'd be about right. Actually, I know that marketing a car is about $600 or $800, and then you've got legacy costs, like people that have been with the company long. That's another $600, and injuries and things like that. So for less than either one of those two, because he does no marketing, really and truly.
Right.
His marketing is right here. He's getting it all for free.
Did not buy a single ad for any of the Car of the Year stuff. I'll tell you that much. Yeah.
They throw nickels around like manhole covers.
So this is why he can come out and say the truck could probably start at $39,000.
He's pulling thousands of dollars out every time he does something because everybody wants to know about him. And we've said this before. Go to anybody and say, oh, can you tell me who the chairman of the board is at Chrysler or Ford or General Motors or Toyota or Honda or any other car company? The only one they know now is Gosen.
Yeah.
Pretty soon we'll forget about him too. But
that's when the movie comes out.
Yeah.
That's when the movie comes out, yeah.
But everybody knows Elon Musk.
Everyone knows Elon Musk, even small children. Yeah. I'm not kidding you.
I know this to be true.
why do you think they came up with this clever approach that, yes, you've been telling people for years and years and years, but why them, why now?
It certainly didn't come from me. I did not talk to anybody at Tesla about that. I just think that Elon Musk is, He's a genius, and he decided he wanted to have something that was going to be radically different, and he probably talked to a bunch of people who are like me, off-roading kind of guys, and talked to people about the problems that they have with a normal pickup truck. I mean, if you had a bunch of folks like me that don't use a pickup truck to haul plywood or what have you, the only thing I'd want to haul is my quad or my bikes or whatever, then he would get a lot of good suggestions. And those suggestions, I think he took them all and packaged them into a vehicle. And to make it look entirely different and use an exoskeleton, I mean, it's not the first time people have talked about that. He's good at capitalizing on good ideas.
I think what probably drove it is he saw an opportunity to do a pickup, looked around and said, where the hell are we going to put this thing? We damn for sure can't add a stamping line. I don't want to put in a paint shop. Franz, design me something that eliminates tooling cost. And I think he unleashes his people just to come up with real clever ideas.
Well, I know for sure that he's got a lot of people there that are free to come up with styles and inventions that normally a car company, get to business. If you're not doing something for me right now, if you're not playing those cymbals every day, then you're out. And that's kind of like the way it works, right? What's he doing? Nothing. Get him out of here. I mean, that's kind of the way it works, right? So you've got a bunch of people now that are sitting around thinking up stuff, and like what they do in the software industry or the circuit board industry. It's a little different mindset, and that's kind of like the way he thinks. So I think he's probably had somebody came up and said, hey, boss, what if we made a truck that looked like that? We have guys that aren't busy all the time at Munro. And, hey, you know what? I think we got an idea here. What about we do something like this? How could we, interest one of our other customers into something like this? And the next thing you know, we've got a software development plan, or we've got something that we can peddle to a customer for a design idea, or we've got something else that we can, hey, have you guys ever, like our customers, have you ever thought of maybe doing this instead of that? Oh, let's give it a shot, those kinds of things. And that's kind of what happens when you've got a lot of talented people, and when in their spare time they're not, searching the web for buying, I don't know, a table and chairs or a new lamp or something. They sit there
They're
and
looking
sketch
for a job.
about well, actually, it's a funny thing. We lost a couple of people, and we got a couple of people that are looking to come back. So one lady, Deepika, she left, and then she got married, and now she wants to come back to Munro. And one of the other guys that used to work at Munro, he went to an OEM. He's been there for a few years. He hates it, and he may be coming back soon.
Do you think that we heard this week that there may be an electric Hummer coming, and there's Rivian, and we mentioned Bollinger before, and there's supposedly more electric truck coming from
F-150.
F-150. Do you think that this will have an effect on any of these things?
No, because they're trucks. Well, the Bollinger is not a, maybe it's a truck, but I'm guessing that the guy with $1 bazillion, eventually he's going to get tired of hauling hay or horse shit, and he's going to say, hey, use the other truck. This is mine. And that'll be that, right? Really rich people don't usually clean out barns or do any of the nasty stuff in the field, or even haul plywood. It just doesn't happen. This is like strictly for status.
They're definitely going to get the Bollinger when they need to tow or haul a telephone pole, though.
Oh, really?
To be able to put it through.
Yeah, that's the only one that can do that.
Go all the way through.
Yeah, it goes all the way through.
Yeah.
Put the front tailgate down.
Hey, we've gotten a number of questions from viewers here. Let's just go through this real fast. Aussie2U said, you must love the Bollinger. No, you don't love the Bollinger.
I only looked at it, glanced at it. It didn't do anything for me. It wasn't.
Yeah, okay. So Mike Flower said, could they just glue the whole thing together, the Cybertruck?
Yeah, but then I wouldn't use stainless steel. I'd use something else, plastic of some like composites of something.
But that's not an exoskeleton then.
I could make an exoskeleton if it was made out of carbon fiber and whatnot, but I don't, and it would be a lot lighter. But I don't know
Would it
whether
start
I
at
would
40
have the
grand?
same. I would probably want to glue stainless steel on the front, like on the skin, like a DeLorean or something.
Joey's cleaning lady wants to know, how do first responders get into the Tesla truck? Just take a saw to it? Jaws of life?
You could take a saw to it as long as you didn't cut somebody up.
Get
Jaws
the
of
diamond tooth blades option.
I never thought about that. I thought somebody was going to say, what happens if you hit somebody? And then I was going to say, hey, wait a minute, collision avoidance is going to be available. And I think somebody walks in front of it, it'll stop all by itself. So I don't know whether we'll get too much of that. But we also had a look at crushed cans and things like that. From an accident standpoint, I don't think there'd be too much of an issue making it so that so it would pass crash worthiness.
Okay, next one. Bob Wilson, he's got a number of questions, but I'm going to boil it down. He wants to know, are you going to have another EV day like you did last year? He said, I still have my booklet, and it's my go-to source for technical details.
Wow, there you go. Actually, on Friday, I'm going to be talking to Frost & Sullivan. It's an English firm, and we're going to be talking about another EV day, similar to that. Only difference is it'll be hundreds of people, and people will come from Europe and stuff like that.
Huh, okay. A guy named Odd Vandermeer from Twitter wrote in to say, looks like the Model Y is going to be slightly more efficient than the Model 3.
And then some.
And any clue on how they could pull that off? Because you'd think a bigger CUV would be not as efficient as a passenger sedan that's smaller.
I can only tell you a few things about that. One is that I have 2 of those coming that were ordered in the first hour that the announcement was made. And if I can get both of them, I'll take them. And the other thing I can tell you is that, one, the Model 3 has the shortest amount of wire harnesses of anybody, and I think it's like 1.2 or 3 kilometers of wire. And the Y has 0.7 kilometers of wire. That's almost 50% cut in the amount of wire they got inside. I'm very anxious to get a hold of it to find out how they've done what they've done. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that they won't be doing goofy things like, hey, I got an idea, let's just make the trunk well out of aluminum, where the rest of the car is steel. I don't think that's going to happen twice.
Dave Tuttle wrote in to ask, how much cheaper do you think the Chinese Model 3 will be than the U.S. one? And is that from design improvements or just cheap Chinese labor?
Cheap Chinese labor? Well, okay, I spent a lot of time in China. You were asking if I was anywhere. Well, guess what? I went to Korea, I went to Japan, I went to China, and then I went to Norway and England. And I can tell you for sure that the Chinese are catching up with labor costs like there's no tomorrow, and it's hard to find people that'll hang around for more than 6 months. It's not cheap labor. Now, I will tell you that I don't want to.
Those were my words. Those were not Dave's words. When I said cheap Chinese labor,
okay.
He just mentioned China-specific cost savings.
There are cost savings, and I'm sure they're going to take advantage of them. And I'm sure that he's not going to go and buy a whole bunch of robots that pick the car up over here and then to another robot and then another robot and then. I don't think he's going to do that twice. I don't think he liked it last time. So I think it's going to be a smaller CapEx for sure. And I also think that he's learned his lesson from the Model 3 here, and that's why I say it's not the same design. I guarantee it. So that'll be different. But as luck would have it, we sell the reports that are side by side, China versus America. I've been told not to give everything away, but it is a cheaper vehicle. It's a less costly vehicle, and I think it'll be far superior.
Yeah.
In fact, if it was up to me, I'd import that car.
So it has been designed for manufacturing in China more than it is here?
No, I think the design came from the States, but they said, well, what did we learn from the old one? Let's not do that again. So instead of having literally 18 pieces for the rear inner for the wheel well, I'm pretty sure they got one piece now. And then they would give it to stampers. And I'll tell you, in the old days when it was basically China cheap, I really wasn't impressed with anything that had to do with stamping or plastic injection molding. But
Coming
those
out of
days
China.
are coming out of China.
Yeah.
But those days are gone.
Right.
These guys have picked up a lot. It's good stuff, and it's a unbelievably low price.
We got 3 phone calls. Let's do that, and then we'll wrap up. But Carmen, let's bring in the first phone call.
How do you create a brilliant chassis architecture with new materials and cost effectiveness without using steel? That's my question.
Oh, I can make that out of aluminum. Actually, I can do that with aluminum, or I could do it with carbon fiber. It depends a lot on the integration that you've got between the team, the product design team. So that would be the product design engineer, the manufacturing engineers, the marketing guys, the finance guys. You have to have a good team, and that's where Tesla wins. Now, the body was done separately. That guy wanted to be all by himself. And the guy that did the suspension, he was all by himself. They only married up where the pickup points were. But the rest of the car was done in a team environment, and it shows. I mean, one bottle for cooling for everything. I mean, it's amazingly efficient and stuff like that. So it depends on the team, but steel is excellent source of, if you're building a conventional car and you're going to be making more than 50,000, 60,000, there is no choice. That's what you want. It's the right price. You pay a little bit for weight, but at the end of the day, it's the right choice. If it's less than 50,000 a year, then you've got a bunch of different options. Carbon fiber is cheap, really cheap from a tooling standpoint, and the tools never wear out. The material is relatively expensive, but the guys that say, oh, it's $42 a pound, well, wait a minute. Let me pick up this pound of steel, okay, and then I'll pick up a pound of aluminum, and then I'll pick up a pound of carbon fiber. You get more skin. You got to measure it in a different way. It has to be measured in how many square meters, or not meters, but how many square centimeters am I going to use? And that's the way you don't do it per pound. It's like goofy.
Yeah.
But you can make money on anything.
Okay, we got another phone call. Carmen, let's bring it in.
Hi, this is Dan from Georgia. I had a question for Sandy about electric vehicle efficiency. Tesla has a 30 to 50% increase in efficiency over Audi or Porsche or any of these other companies that finally started making long-range EVs. Why is that? And is that something that they're going to be able to maintain, period?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and the very good answer is Tesla. Tesla is using 2170 batteries right now, a Panasonic battery that has a higher output than everybody else. They increased the size about 50% approximately, and they changed the chemistry inside, and they got 100% more efficient. So that's one thing. And Tesla also bought Maxwell, and Maxwell is a battery company that's on the cutting edge with lots and lots of new technology and new science. And I think that their next generation battery will have either the Maxwell ingredients in it, or they'll share with Panasonic and develop a battery in joint with Panasonic so they can make that happen. And by the way, there's another thing that we're looking at that may start to raise its, I don't want to say ugly head. It's been an ugly situation up till now, but there's a couple of companies that have come up with a lithium sulfur battery. Lithium ion is what we use currently, and it catch on fire and whatnot. But lithium sulfur in the past has suffered because it doesn't have the cyclability that you'd get out of other batteries. And but now apparently there's some folks that are claiming that they're going to be in production with this stuff shortly. We'll see what happens, but that could make that's a game changer. The best one, of course, would be, and I think that that's what Tesla's working on as well, would be solid state battery. If that comes out, yeah. So
Game changer.
it's a game changer because their whole business, they don't have anything to look at except batteries and electric. And by the way, the electric motors that Tesla have outperform per pound everybody else. Well, actually, I don't know. We're looking at a Nissan Leaf right now, and the output on that versus the weight is kind of surprising. But as I mentioned,
Surprisingly good.
surprisingly good. Yeah, I didn't really want to do that electric motor and inverter, but it's the same old, same old. Are you sure you want it? Yep. How much you going to pay? This much? Oh, well, we'd be happy to help you out. Anyway, so now we're looking at it, and
You like what you
actually,
see in the Leaf, in the latest generation.
in the latest generation. So we got a 2020 Leaf motor and inverter, and we're looking at it right now, and we're very impressed, very, very impressed with that motor.
Very interesting. Okay, another phone call. Carmen, bring it on in.
Hey guys, Jonathan out in Old Japan. Listen, fantastic show. Quick question. I missed the first 10 minutes, fortunately. Is this thing safe with regards to crush zones and whatnot, the Cybertruck? And can they make one about the size of an Alfa Romeo Stelvio and just instead of having a fastback roof, have a straight roof and a cam back? Anyways, looking forward to your answers. Fantastic show. Sandy, you're fascinating, as are all your other guests. Thank you.
Only there was money involved. Well, I think I answered the one about the safety and whatnot. I'm pretty sure we can make crushed cans, not a problem. And again, because I think that cars are getting smarter, and that means they're going to be a lot safer. I'm pretty up on I'm pretty on board about having crash avoidance, and that's kind of like what we really and truly need. I don't, and maybe that's what your friend with no airbags and whatnot is going to hang his hat on. But for me, I think that that car will not have to worry too much about anything that has to do with crashworthiness or bumping into people and killing them. Like they're very fussy on that in Europe.
And what do you think about Jonathan's question of taking the Cybertruck and making a cyber SUV out of it?
Well, a cyber SUV, actually, if you wanted to make a cyber sports car out of it, you could do whatever you want, because I think that he may run with a bunch of different, like you were talking about, the down the road kind of the generation thing. The generation that's here right now, I think that the ones that like that Cybertruck, they might like to have a cyber SUV. They may want to have a cyber sports car as well. They may not want an F-150.
Yeah.
Is there anything about the exoskeleton design that has a plus or minus vis-a-vis safety?
Safety, no, but they're expensive to repair. If you smash that thing in a big way, it's a goner. But from what I can gather, most of the most of the insurance companies now are even what I would classify as minor crashes. They're just saying write it off. They don't want to have anything to do with a wreck. So, but with the CBs that did crash significantly, there was no repair, none. You couldn't do anything with them. They just got melted down, turned into pop cans.
You guys got any more questions?
You ask him questions all day long.
Well, I know. Okay, so we got one more phone call. It's Dale to finish the show on.
Dale, very good. He hung up.
Had enough.
Are we going to get that? Hang on, I hear them calling in
This
the.
is Dale Leonard out of Cleveland, Ohio. And John, just wanted to make my first call of 2020 and say hello to everyone. And great show as always. And Sandy, I just love when you're on the show. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Oh, boy.
Thanks for the call, Dale. Dale,
Sandy,
yeah,
you
it
got
was great.
fans. It's true.
Yeah.
They're just fans
Yeah,
that are out
yeah.
there.
Well, you know, I've had fans, and then they turn into enemies. It's hard to say how long they'll last. But, you know, I would like to do one thing. Because the last time I was here, people asked, what's the cost differential between an ICE and an electric vehicle and blah, blah, where everything goes. So could we have number 14? How much time have you got?
Well, we'll wrap it up with this.
Okay. Okay, so I was asked to make something up. And luckily, my wonderful wife, Susan, cranked this up for me. And so what you're looking at here in green is electric, and in blue is ICE. How nice. She picked the colors. Anyway, so you can see that in interiors, it's 9 to 24%.
So EVs are much more cheaper from an interior standpoint. How? Why?
Well, we based everything on the Tesla Model 3.
Okay,
and
so EVs are not inherently cheaper on the interior. The way Tesla does things, it's cheaper on the interior.
But we also looked at the BMW i3, and it's about the same.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So where's the savings?
The savings?
Yeah. Why is it cheaper with an EV?
Well, number one, these guys are thinking ahead, and they're not going to suppliers for seats. And if you look at the instrument panels, they're mostly electronic, which means that you don't have a bunch of dials and you don't have a bunch of buttons. Buttons and dials cost a lot of money.
Okay, body exterior.
Okay, exterior trim is usually sparse on these vehicles. They don't like
On the EVs.
On the EVs, they don't really see the extra need for that kind of stuff. Controlling electronics is the same way. If you're smart, like what was in with the Tesla vehicle, everything turns out to be a whole lot easier. A whole lot. Same with the chassis was the thing that surprised me. And by the way, this is the percentage with Tesla. Okay, this is not a comparison to an EV. These are the Tesla vehicle. Where did they spend the money? 9% was in interior. 16 was the body. 14 was the controller. 9% was the chassis. And 51% is the powertrain. That doesn't mean that it's compared to the ICE vehicle. So the ICE vehicle that we picked, I don't know which one she picked, but
The powertrain is probably more expensive in an ICE vehicle. It's just
huge.
a smaller percentage of the total.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking at these things in isolation. The total car costs 100%. 51% of that was the powertrain.
And that's all battery, right?
And battery and electric motor and...
Yeah, but the electric motor,
Inverter
that's not very expensive, right?
No, it's not expensive, but the inverter converter, we look at that as really part of the motor. And then it's got a slush box or a...
Yeah, gear reduction unit.
Yeah, gear reduction unit. Is that what that new name is?
That's what they call it. Don't call it a transmission.
It's not a transmission.
It's a transmission and motor train because it transmits the power.
Is this like that Burger King ad or something? Anyway, but that's how it works. So if you looked at 100% of an ICE vehicle, 24 would be inside, 25 would be the exterior body, whatever.
I gotcha.
And
Okay.
18% would be the, yeah.
So all you got to do is get that battery cost down,
Telling you.
and they're going to blow this market wide open.
If, it's the same old, like I said before, I mean, if no one comes up with a solid-state battery or some kind of new battery technology, we're going to see diesels and gas engines and whatnot, regardless of what the politicians say. It'll be around for a long time. But if somebody comes along with a way to change the way we store electricity, you watch it, it'll plummet. And then we got another problem. How do we fix the roads? Because there's no gas tax if you don't have gas. Yeah, so that's the other thing.
That's for another show.
Yeah, well, Well, it's highly charged politically.
Will lithium sulfur have an effect, or is it just going to be?
Lithium sulfur would have an effect because it's a lot cheaper, and it's smaller, and it could work, but
That's the one that IBM just had an announcement on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that. I've been following the guys in Australia. That's the thing I've been looking at. But
The orbital engine pack?
huh?
The orbital engine, weren't they awesome?
Yeah, they were
They
awesome.
were,
Yeah.
They were, yeah. And
The
we don't
orbital
want to
battery?
talk about them. Orbital
Yeah,
engine is.
we know what it is. Nobody else does.
You know,
Right.
you had to be old, old and engine worthy. But at the end of the day, I think that's the real thing. If we could get to a solid state battery, you know, and it's like a whisper thing, but big. It would take up the whole floor pan probably. That's what I would do anyway, and I'd give you at least 500 miles of range and weigh virtually nothing and cost probably even less. So it's like a big capacitor is what it kind of.
Can you integrate it into the structure?
It could.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I don't even want to mention it. Everybody's going to think I'm nuts, but a guy showed me this stuff that you can electrically charge it, and you basically would pour it into the body structure, and you charge and go and do whatever you need to do, and then when you need to change it, you didn't plug it in, you sucked out the slurry and pushed in a new set of slurry, and away you go.
Sandy, you're nuts.
I am. I knew it was coming. I knew it.
And with that, we're going to have to wrap up the show. So, Sandy,
there you
thanks
go.
so much for coming on again.
Oh, thank you.
Really interesting stuff,
Yeah.
as always.
Well, hopefully, at least Dan, was it Dan that?
Dale.
What?
Dale.
Dale, sorry,
Yeah.
Dale. Thank you, Dale. Dale was happy. And if Dale's happy, I'm happy.
All right. Frank Markus, thanks so much for coming in and
Always
sharing
pleasure.
your Motor Trend insights with us.
All right.
And Gary, always good to do a show with you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Let's do it again.
We'll do it again next week.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion. Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world. And by DIA MTS, for advanced manufacturing machinery and lightweight components.
Visit our website, Autoline.tv, where you can watch us live Thursday afternoons. Get your daily fix with Autoline Daily and in-depth analysis and interviews with Autoline This Week. There's all that and much more at Autoline.tv.